when he gave his evidence, he explained that there was pretty much like a 6-month orientation session that was taking place within the SAPS, starting from July when he took over as the executive authority.
Yes.
And what you are explaining is that during that orientation session, at various points you were asked to make presentations to the to the minister, and you have attached in your witness statement the various presentations that you made to the minister in relation to various financial and budgetary issues relevant to the SAPS.
Correct.
So just over paragraph 19, can you read that and then just explain what your evidence is from there?
Yes. I can confirm that all these 5 presentations that I've mentioned in paragraph 18 dealt with the budget framework, overall challenges as well as pressure points in the organization. None of these presentations dealt with the matters that are relating to PKTT. To our strategic presentations, there was nothing that we spoke about in these 5 presentations that related to the PKTT.
So in these, so you're making these presentations, but they're at a very high level in relation to the overall SAPS budget and so on.
That is correct.
And even though your presentations may not have dealt with the PKTT, did the minister ever ask you in relation to budgetary issues and so on around, what is the budget implications of the PKTT, or express any concerns in relation to that?
I have never spoken to the minister about the PKTT budget. All discussions concerning the allocation of funds to the PKTT are solely between myself and the National Commissioner as the accounting officer. The typical process, as I had indicated, is that the project leader would then apply for an extension of funding as well and submit this request. The submission will then go through various levels of approval, eventually ending up with the National Commissioner. I usually have these conversations with the National Commissioner during this process. We regularly discuss matters with all teams, including matters that pertains to intervention task teams as well as the PKTT. These are routine conversations between myself and the National Commissioner. My role then is to confirm whether there is funding. If there is no funding, we then have a conversation with the National Commissioner in terms of determining priorities or reprioritizing to ensure that we support this. These are the conversations that I have only with the National Commissioner.
So these are conversations, as you say, that you have with the National Commissioner as the accounting officer in relation to how you allocate the budget, and that there were never conversations that were either that you had with the minister or that were ever raised with the minister in relation to how you're allocating the budget, how these task teams are essentially impacting the overall SAPS budget framework.
The presentation for 2025 in terms of the apportioning of the allocation, it spoke to the apportioning of the allocation to all cost centers, but it did not touch on anything that relates to the PKTT.
Okay. So, can you confirm, how did you learn about the disbandment?
I had gone on leave from the 17th of December last year. That leave ended on the 10th of January 2025. So on the 2nd of January, while I was on leave, I learned of the disbandment. I think I saw something on one of the news outlets. That's how I learned about it. I was on leave.
And General Dimpane,
Advocate Zikalala, may we please take Honorable Ngola.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a follow-up, Chair, on the Minister being briefed about the budget arrangements of the PKTT. And it's very important, Chair, because the Minister bases strongly, amongst other reasons, that budgeting of financial costs of the PKTT will be becoming too much. So has the Minister or the National Commissioner solicited any cost analysis of the PKTT from you?
No, no, Chair.
Have you ever been made to account on the cost effectiveness of the PKTT in the SAPS stock management meeting?
No, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair.
May proceed. Honorable Matthews.
Also, just a follow-up or a question of clarity. There were 11, or there's 11 task teams. So did the minister also inquire about any of the other 10 at all? Like specifically on how much was spent?
From me as a CFO, I have never.
In those
received-
5 presentations to him, there was no questions from him or his team?
These were strategic presentations, Chair. I have never been requested to come and present in terms of the operations to the minister.
For any of them? Okay, thank you.
No.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. You may proceed.
Thank you. So, as the committee members have already foreshadowed, it was a significant part of the minister's evidence before this committee that he had in mind these budgetary pressures when he wrote the disbandment directive and he essentially issued it. And when he was before this committee, one of the things that he relied on heavily was a comment you had made in an information note. Now, I don't know if the committee members have that information note. It's in the annexures, but the comment is also set out on paragraph 20, page 20, paragraph 23. The information note for those who want to look at the annexures is PPD 13 at page 105. And so, just to take one step back, this was an information note for the 2024, for the period 1 April 2024 to 31 March 2025. Is that correct?
Correct.
The information note was, as I see it, and I can pull it up quickly, was completed or was an application for funding that was done by General Kumalo. And that application for funding was then made, I think, in March. Let me check. Was made on the 26th of March, 2024. Is that correct? Do you have it before you?
That is correct.
So the comment that you made on that information note was essentially approved before the minister came into office.
That is correct.
And then can you then take us through essentially what you were trying to explain in that comment? You've set it out in paragraph 23 of your statement, if you want to have a look at that.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps before I even get to my comment, I wish to state that I did not give anyone permission to utilize that information note. That information note was an information note requesting funding from the project leader to the National Commissioner, and it came to my table to then confirm if funding is available. I was shocked to hear about that information note being utilized in evidence in this regard. And nobody has ever asked me about the context of that particular comment that I had made on this information note. Nobody. And it is a conversation that I had had with the National Commissioner when that request for funding came to our table. The project leader requested 94 million. You will recall that this information note comes in March, somewhere towards the end of March. You are trying to close a financial year 23-24, and you are getting to the new financial year.
Can I just pause, because I think that is an important detail. The financial year for the end of the financial year is the end of March.
It's the end of March, yes.
So the information note comes on the 26th of?
March.
Yes. So it's coming just before you are about to close your books, or I don't know what you close.
Correct.
Yes.
It's coming just towards the closure of a financial year, and the
Before that, Chair.
May I
Yes,
proceed?
there's a question. Just
No, there was a point she was trying to articulate which she feels very strong about it. And she was interrupted that no one even asked her about it, and she was shocked to see. So I thought we must allow her to finish that ventilation. And then we can take forward the new question that she's talking about. Because this might be a platform where she feels she needs to express herself, and she has been sitting with this matter. And she must be given that opportunity.
That is granted. Honorable, General Dimpane, can you conclude the point that you wanted to elaborate?
I wanted to indicate that this is one of the many information notes or funding requests that will come to our table. This was a request that was made by the project leader, and it was submitted in March. This is a conversation that I have with the National Commissioner, and I make several observations and comments in this regard. And I get to be shocked when this information note is utilized as evidence and trying to portray a picture as if I was advocating for the disbandment of the political task team. It is taken out of context, and I believe that this is an important platform to then deal with the context in terms of this information note. I wish to state that I did not give anyone permission to use that or give anyone the physical document in this regard to use in their evidence. Now, this information note comes, it has been taken out of context. Then I make an observation to say we are closing a financial year. We are getting into the new financial year. Between April and May, we will be engaging in a process where we then allocate or a process of distributing resources to all cost centers in this regard. For the purposes of allowing this task team to then do their work, we agree with the National Commissioner that the initial allocation will then be 20 million. You will note that the project leader had requested 94. We agree with the National Commissioner that up until we finalize the internal apportioning of the budget, we will then confirm 20 million to allow for the team to work while we finalize the processes of internal apportioning. And those processes unfolded and they were concluded in May. And I can indicate to this committee that the allocation for the team for that financial year was not 20 million, it was 55. The 20 million was an initial allocation as agreed with the National Commissioner, and subsequently we then concluded the internal apportioning and decisions were taken, and additional funding was given to the team, and the total allocation for that year was 55 million. Now I raised these concerns to say the National Commissioner, this team has been in existence for a long time, and I think I have raised this earlier. It is impossible, it's practically impossible for me from a budget point of view to operate in this fashion. It will be best, and you will note that the last comment there I'm saying, task component OD, this is organizational development, to urgently conduct a work study investigation for the establishment of a permanent structure. And I'm talking to the permanent structure that relates to PKTT in KwaZulu-Natal. I had indicated that it was my view that this team was established to deal with the problems in KwaZulu-Natal. It's been 5 years. Clearly, this team is then dealing with a serious problem that does not want to go away. For us to be able to resource this team properly, let's have a permanent structure in KwaZulu-Natal. Of course, the National Commissioner has different views to say, not localized in KwaZulu-Natal. Perhaps when we deal with this and we come to that decision, it might be a team that is national to be able to deal with the similar problems in other provinces. Of course, he knew from an operational point of view, I'm assuming, that the scope of this team had expanded into other provinces. He had no obligation to share that with me. And ultimately, he then approved the initial allocation of 20 million. When we are done with the internal apportioning, then the total allocation to support this team for that year was 55 million. So the document has been out there, been discussed out of context, and nobody has ever reached out to me to say, what exactly did you mean by these comments? So I thought I would use this opportunity to then clear the air and clarify this. The allocation for that year was then 55 million with a total spending of 57.5 million at the end of that financial year. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Sangon.
Thank you very much, Chair. General, on that issue that you've well articulated the context, but I can tell that you are quite upset with your comment having been used as evidence. How does it work in SAPS? Because I see that information note had 3 signatures, if I'm not mistaken. General, okay. But you were the second last before the National Commissioner. Now, once you make your comment and it goes to the National Commissioner, ordinarily, does it go back down the line so everybody can see the comments? I'm trying to figure out, does it also go to the Minister? How does it get to the Minister's office for the Minister to then use it as evidence?
These submissions don't go to the Minister. It ends with the National Commissioner as the approving authority. Then it will go back to the project leader who would have applied for funding. I would, of course, have a copy to ensure that then I keep track in terms of the budget allocation as well as expenditures in this regard. They do not go to the Minister.
Sorry, Chair, it's just, so in your view, how, and I know that maybe I'm putting you on the spot here, but when the Minister brings this document, I mean, it's an operational discussion between, yourselves as the officials who are signing it off. If you had to hazard, how do you think the Minister even knows what you said? Because you said you never discussed this with him. He shouldn't, maybe asked that he shouldn't even know that you had written this comment, am I correct?
I am not saying he shouldn't know. I am not certain where he got hold of the document. I'm simply saying that it should not then be utilized as if, and creating an impression as if, as the CFO, I took the document and I went to the Minister with the document. That is not what transpired. And I'm not saying he is not entitled to have a look at documents in the organization, but I certainly did not give him that document. When the document leaves my office, it goes to the National Commissioner. The National Commissioner will then approve it, goes back to the person who had requested funding. I would request a copy for purposes of my records as well as accounting properly. Probably the executive authority has access to documents and discussions in the organization, but I certainly did not give the Minister that document, or General CBF for that matter.
So you've already discussed part of the comment that you made, which is under paragraph 23 of your witness statement. And this is just further clarification because a lot of emphasis in the evidence of both General Sibia and then subsequently the Minister, and in particular the Minister, was to say, and looking at the line just under paragraph 23 in the quote, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4th line, where you say post-elections, the team must be deactivated as it has been in existence for the last 5 years. So there seems to have been the suggestion, and it was made in evidence, that you as the CFO had advocated for the disbandment of the team. But as I understand from what you're saying about the last line, was that you were in fact saying that steps need to be taken for the team to be made a permanent structure. Is that correct, or do you just want to clarify anything further?
That is the correct context, because if it is a permanent structure, it has been there for a long time, then it gives you an opportunity to be able to budget for it properly, to resource it properly, because clearly it is dealing with something that is a bit permanent in this regard. And as I indicated earlier, then issues of accountability in terms of the resources that you would have allocated to that particular team. So it is correct.
So, I mean, we've covered a significant amount in relation to that particular comment that you had made, but ultimately, as I understand, your evidence is to be saying that from a budgeting perspective, you had made that particular comment in that framework from a budgeting perspective, looking at the fact that this was a team that was ongoing for 5 years.
Yes.
But it was not, and you must just clarify for me if I'm putting words in your mouth, that it wasn't you advocating for the disbandment of the team in the way that it was eventually disbanded.
Correct. I wouldn't have advocated because I did not even know the operational work that they are doing. These are the operational conversations that are held with the operational teams together with the National Commissioner. So I do not normally get into meetings where the project leader will be briefing each other together with the National Commissioner. So it was from a resource point of view, as well as to assist us to be able to predict and to allocate resources and to ensure that there are systems in place to hold the relevant project leaders and project managers or whoever would then be heading this permanent team in terms of the resources that will be allocated to them.